I was just wondering regarding deal structure and the deferred. I had a business owner who was concerned about, all right, I understand what you're talking about, but how do I ensure I get paid, say, come year 3, year 5, and I've given you my business. I'm just wondering how you get around that.
Fantastic. Does everyone understand what the objection was? Deferred consideration. If I give you the business today, how do I make sure you're going to pay me in year 3, year 4, year 5? Now, first things first, the more confident you are at the beginning, and the more you follow Jonathan's process, the less you'll actually get that question. It is the absolute kicker in this business. The more confident you are, the more you practice, the more you get to the point where you're not intimidated, the less objections you get. I mean, the one we were doing yesterday with David, literally we went round, it took a bit longer than we thought because the guy was really chatty, showing us everything, and he sat down at the end and he's like, so, are you going to buy my business? How do you quite like that as a negotiation strategy to start with? He's like, have we scared you off? Are you really interested? We're like, no, we're interested. We might even have a way to get you what you want, just not the way you want it. So coming back to that one, the way I usually answer it, if you get someone who, you need to decide, is it an objection or is it a buying question? Does everyone understand the difference between an objection and a buying question? Okay, a buying question is simply where someone feels that they've not asked you something and they need to participate in the buying conversation. Because how many of you like to get sold to here? Okay, the people who put your hands up, you're the people who should have put your hand up earlier when I said who likes sales. Salespeople love getting sold to by other good salespeople because we're all addicted to it no matter what we say. Everyone else, how many of you like to buy things? Okay, but if the only difference between buying things and getting sold is, are you feeling high pressure and are you engaged in the buying conversation? So when you get to that point, sometimes they've got no other question to ask, so they just make something up. Now, the worst thing you can do if they ask something like that is going like Rocky and knock them out. Bang! Because you've just destroyed it. If it's an objection, you need to give them a little slap. So how do we do that? I'll do the little slap first, and I'll come back and show you the friendly way, because the friendly way is actually the first part of the slap. So I go, that's an absolutely great question. First of all, let me tell you what my objective is with buying your business and what we're trying to achieve, and bring them into your vision of what you're trying to do. And part of that is we're looking to buy somewhere between 5 and 12 businesses in your sector over the next 5 to 7 years. Because small businesses have it hard right now because you're too small to be big, you're too big to be small, and you don't have the efficiencies and the scale to be able to compete with your bigger competitors. Whereas if we can buy 5, 10, 15 businesses that all work together in synergy, we can put the structures in and the efficiencies to make the business more profitable, to give it a future, and help it compete aggressively as a small business against the bigger businesses. Now, the only way I'm going to do that is by everyone who we talk to in the future, you're telling them how amazing we were to deal with, how we looked after you, how we looked after your customers, how we looked after your staff, and how we looked after your legacy. If I screw you over in year 3, are you going to keep quiet about it? Are you going to tell everyone on LinkedIn, on Facebook? Every time you go down the pub and you've had a drink, you're going to tell everyone, the barmaid, the cleaner, Dave from the pub who's got all the advice about what you should have done. True or false, you will tell the world. And you'll sue me. And I don't like paying legal fees. The only way this is going to work is if you have that ability that you can tell everyone how amazing we were. So first of all, there's no incentive for me to screw you over because I lose in every situation. And your lawyer will insist on protections in there that if we don't pay you, you get the business back. Now, as much as I like you, David, I don't want to pay you X and give you the business back in 3 years. I'm buying your business because I want it. I'm not buying it just because I want to give you £1 million. Does that make sense? Now, if they need a slap, that's how you handle the friendly cuddle. If it's a genuine objection that they're hitting, I then tend to go in, if they're still a bit resistant, a little bit heavier. and say, now, what you're actually asking is, in what situation would I not pay you? Is that a fair statement? Now, what I'm doing is I'm getting their agreement to proceed along this line of questioning. So he's going to say, well, yes. And you go, great. Well, there's only 2 reasons that this business will not succeed to the point that we can't pay you. The first one is that the economy turns against us. Because let's be honest, despite promising us the most pro-business government since time began, I don't think they know the meaning of the word positive or pro-business. They're not making life easy for us at the moment, are they? Come on, let's be honest, guys. Every single one of you in this room who's got a business, it's tough at times. So we don't know what the economy is going to look like. That's the reason why actually right now, if you'd sold your business 2 years earlier, we probably could have given you more for it because the economy was doing better and the outlook was looking better. Right now, we have to factor in a hostile government in how we structure the deal. Now, if it goes south, you have to ask yourself, who's got more chance? Because if it's going south on me, it's going south on you. Now, you've got a really good track record with this business. You know it inside and out. You've probably been through a few recessions. You've been through COVID. You've been through the war in Ukraine. We've both done that, and it comes down to support networks around you. Because how many of you have got businesses who know that business is a lonely experience if you're not careful? Most business owners are isolated, so if something goes wrong, you'll struggle because you don't have the support network I do. Let me tell you about my support network. I actively engaged with 150 people who are out there buying businesses every single day. Seasoned entrepreneurs who have seen every single situation. I'm also part of an inner circle of 53 people who do between $500 million and $750 million a year in acquisitions in turnover. I can guarantee you, if something goes wrong, and it's something I haven't seen, do you think one of those will have seen the exact problem before and be able to say, Martin, you're an idiot, just do that? So if the economy turns against it, with all due respect, who do you think has got more chance of getting the business through it profitably? Me with my businesses in that support network, or you without any support network? Which means the only way this is going to go worse is if there's something you've not told me about in the business already. Now, when we sign heads of terms, we're going to go through due diligence, both financial, commercial, and legal. They will find anything that's out there. I don't want to waste time, neither do you. There is nothing that right now we can't solve if you tell me about it, but if they find about it, they will block the deal and stop me from doing it. So right now, is there anything at all that you know about the business that should concern me about buying this business, or are you completely happy this business is going to succeed? They're going to say, I'm completely happy, and you go, fantastic. In which case, that won't be an issue. Does that make sense? Now, I asked him the question, the tie down, does that make sense? Because he's agreed, he's happy with the solution. And I say, fantastic, so is there any other questions that's stopping you from going ahead with the deal, or do we have a deal? That's called the Pepsi or Coke option in negotiation. So right now, if I just say, how many of you right now have a favorite drink? On the count of 3, I want you to yell out your favorite drink. And don't say Pepsi and Coke, because I just said that, by the way. I'm going to change the question. Your favorite drink in the whole world. What's your favorite drink? 1, 2, 3. Right. Did anyone make out what anyone said because there were so many choices? Okay, cool. Here's one for you. How many of you prefer water? How many of you prefer squash? Water? Squash? Something else? Do you notice how everyone made a choice? You can subconsciously plant the question, but look at the 2 options. The options were, do you have any other questions, or are we signing the heads of terms? They have to consciously think, I don't want to do the deal now. You're steering them forward and gaining momentum. Does that make sense? David, does that help answer that question for you? So any follow-ups to that, because that was probably the best question we've had so far today?